Call the meeting to order. You all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll.
Councilmember Atwood.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rose.
Here.
Mayor Ratten.
Here.
And we have Councilmember Everson excused.
And can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
First and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried unanimously. No presentations today. And I will take public comment.
I brought up about if the staff had the power to negotiate in a contract, redo a contract for the developer, and I never got an answer on that. This is about Wildflower.
Redo a developer's agreement?
He
or-
made a change in the contract.
Okay.
I was learning the staff had the legal power to do that, and I never got an answer.
Contract.
I wouldn't think so, but we will
I
find out
wouldn't-
for sure.
I wouldn't either, but I will have an answer for you at the next meeting.
Okay,
Do
thank
you mean a development agreement or just any kind of contract?
Well,
or
the
both?
development agreement, I mean, it goes to the council and the planning commission, and they're the ones that decide, and all of a sudden, things got changed in it.
Sure.
100 foot buffer, three lots, I think, involved in it. This is Wildflower.
Okay.
Thanks.
And the other question I have, I think it's on one, I'd like to know how full that is. I'd like to flat out know how full it is.
How many houses are built so far?
Know how full the pond is full of sediment.
Oh,
Wastewater. Oh, we're in a different
Wastewater.
subject.
okay.
Yes, I'd like to know
Any
how
pond,
full.
all the ponds?
The first pond it dumps into. I think it's getting full, and it's, and you read our cease and desist order, it's 10%, it's supposed to be cleaned out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name's Debbie Hubbard. I live in Castle Oaks. In the last few years, I did bring this to the attention of, I called the water agency to find out, but there's a few houses at 1045 Shakely, and I have photos here if you guys would like them. There seems to be a drainage from the property onto the sidewalk and into the gutter. And it is drained so much year round now. There is moss, there's algae, that you literally cannot walk through it. And I called the water agency about maybe a year and a half ago. They came out, they put the straw stuff in the thing and kind of stopped it for a little bit. That's the last I heard. I heard that there was a natural spring supposedly that popped up in a couple of the residences there. But it's very dangerous. I saw a gentleman from across the street go to get his mail and he slipped and fell. I came up on it, a nice passerby stopped, helped him to get up, but it's very dangerous. I mean, they've had 3 different homeowners, I think, there in that facility at that house, and no one's ever done anything. I mean, not put a sign out, not anything. So I think, I'm curious of who's gonna be responsible if someone gets hurt. So if you guys would like photos, I have photos.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tom, and Stacy, and Jeff. There we go.
Is that right before it makes the hard bend to the
Yes, right
right?
where they're building the house
Okay.
next door, right,
Thanks.
sure.
It looks like it's
Thank you.
pipe in the yard, doesn't it?
Good evening, Rhonda, Morningstar Coke Floors. I was reading in the minutes that was in the packet, and there was a reference to, let me make sure I have it correctly, assessing the impacts of the Harrah's Northern California Casino, and you guys were either reclassifying, you were restructuring something with law enforcement to address impacts of the Harrah's Casino. Does that ring a bell? It was in your minutes?
It was minutes.
Yeah, it was in your minutes. I'm not sure. There was some action taken.
In the current packet?
Yeah, I believe so, because I went on and looked at the
I think it was-
agenda, and it was attached.
Tracy was looking for the new,
Right,
And then there was some, you
the
either,
200,000 from the county that we get, is that what you're referring to?
no, well, unless that's part of it. That actually was going to be my question. I know that initially the county negotiated $100,000 on behalf of Ione, which in my opinion is not enough. But also, and then it increased to 200,000. So my question was, is this action that you're taking, which I hope you know what I'm talking about, is this under that $200,000, or is this something that you're having to do that's outside of that 200,000 that is not covered due to the casino? I tend to pay attention to everything that goes on in the areas, and especially if it's things that are impacted by the casino. So I just want to get clarification on that.
You're referring, I think, to
It's
regular
number five.
agenda.
Number 5.
Number 5, not 4?
Yeah.
Okay, 5.
Number
Because
5.
number 4,
Yeah, it was referencing that you guys were gonna strike
they're
overtime.
recruiting people, we're recruiting people to go to an academy sponsorship program.
Okay,
As part of this, and part of that is because we are having difficulty finding qualified
Okay.
candidates.
so my question is that covered under the amount that you get, or is this something that you're having to do that's outside of the funding that you currently get under the additional $200,000?
This is covered under that amount.
It is covered under that
And again, the number is 100,000 and then the additional 200,000. So total what we're getting is 300,000.
Oh, you're getting 300, okay, my bad, I thought it was
But
200.
remember, part of that 100,000 is split with the fire department. So there is a split on that 100,000, the first 100,000.
Oh, so how does that work? Can you explain that to me? 'Cause
Okay,
I thought that was just law enforcement.
we can't really have a full-on discussion on
If you
public
want-
comment.
Or
but
where
what
can
we
I
can
find
do
it?
is I can ask that this either be put as an agenda item, or you can have a conversation with John.
Okay,
Call me tomorrow.
okay, I'll call you tomorrow.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for the funding as well. We appreciate
Yes.
it.
Any other public comment? Okay, I will go ahead and close public comment. Moving on to the consent calendar. Is there anything anybody wants to pull from the consent calendar? I will entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Move we accept the consent calendar. I'll second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Go ahead, take
Aye.
public comment.
Oh, public comment on the consent calendar? I'll get this down.
Okay.
No public comment, go ahead and close public comment. And now, we have a first and a second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody agrees, it's carried, moving on. No public hearings, moving to the regular agenda. At this point, we've got our self-help sales and use tax for streets, roads, repairs, and maintenance. Board of Supervisor, Mr. Frank Axe.
Yes, yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Ratton and Ione City Council for inviting me down here and staff. Just a quick summary. Last month we completed a white paper, which I believe you probably have a copy. that describes the deferred maintenance that's occurred in all the jurisdictions based on and what the projections are to fix those roads and keep them in up to snuff, and what the funding shortfalls would be based on what's actually coming in from the HUDA and the SB1 taxes, and then an estimated distribution of roughly $3 million amongst those the 6 jurisdictions. And that $3 million was based on what Measure M, which is a half-cent sales measure, brings in already. So in addition to that, I believe that your council passed a generic resolution that just agreed in principle with the concept of pursuing a self-help measure in the county. And so I was invited by your city manager, John Hankin, to come down and answer any questions that I possibly could that you might have.
I don't want to steal your question.
Go right ahead.
Well, we had some questions, and I think the council felt that, we would like the voters to weigh in on this. We didn't, because a few of us aren't happy with extra taxes, as you know. Personally, wasn't very happy with SB1, which the Board of Supervisors supported, and right off the bat, 25% was only ever coming back to the city. So this would have been way better than SB1. So I wish this had come out a few years ago. And the committee's done a phenomenal job on this. You've done it the right way.
Thank you.
Don't want to beat up on whoever the school board bond. They got way behind the curve before they started to do what you've done ahead of it. So well done. I think our biggest question was that, we have a prison, and the population was, discounted, but there is impact from people going to the prison, from guards going to the prison, from visitors going to the prison. We understand that, you've settled, or at this time, it looks like it's going to be based on the population, on the split, not on the roads. And so we think to throw out the prison completely is wrong. To include it 100% wouldn't be fair either, because they are not wearing the roads possibly like a resident would. But there needs to be some consideration for the prison population. Whatever formula, we can come up with, or the group can come up with. But what you typically do with population is you base everything on trips, like a house. So if there's a house, which is population, house usually 2.2, that's a population. So how many trips does the prison generate might be a better way to, instead of basing it on the population, base it on like trips like you would on the rest of it. So it gets kind of confusing, but just understand that we feel that the population needs to be included in some way.
I hear what you're saying. A couple of comments is that, first of all jurisdictions have a major industry, that they can point to. In the county, we, in my district, there's Jackson Rancheria. There's also the Martell, Shenandoah Valley. There's a lot of trips that occur there. So it was felt that the prison population doesn't pay the sales tax, and so it was only fair to, or that was what it was believed that was the fair thing to exclude that portion of it.
Right.
But we can certainly discuss it or entertain it. But it may, there might be, we can certainly, I'm open to trying to discuss it, but I think that, other people are going to say, well, what about this and what about that? And I'm concerned that, it was a challenge to get to this point. And we decided on population just because it was something easy that I think the public can understand. And I think that that was the that was why we settled on that. Some jurisdictions use road miles too, with population, kind of a 50-50 split. I know of one example, Monterey County, and it's got quite a few jurisdictions involved in that. I know that that would very much favor the county, the unincorporated, because we have many more miles of road. But we have not included that, just tried to keep it a little simpler. And if you look at in the white paper, just based on population, the estimated projected revenues kind of match the maintenance. That's the annual shortfall. So especially for the cities, it doesn't match for the unincorporated area. Unfortunately, our shortfall is much larger. But going into this, we kind of realized that we're not going to close the gap completely. So that's I understand what you're saying. We can discuss it amongst the group.
That'd be great.
At this point, I guess what I should have added was the measure that you passed last week, I think, has been passed by the Jackson City Council 5-0, the Sutter Creek City Council 4-1. We hope to have Plymouth and Amador City on board too. And then on the second meeting of the month, I'm hoping that the Board of Supervisors will consider that, which would be February 25th. So I'm hoping at that point we'll get the support that we need to begin to put a ballot measure in place, actually draft language. And so that would then have to come back to the jurisdictions for final approval. But at this point, I didn't want to dedicate those kind of resources to that endeavor unless we really kind of had all of the elected bodies in support of the concept that this is a worthwhile pursuit. So that's why we're trying to get the resolution circulated, and that way the Board of Supervisors can know what the incorporated cities are thinking too, and then that will help in their decision making. And so at that point, once that's done, then hopefully we can agree on ballot language, and we can discuss the population concerns, and maybe there's other ways to be creative. I can't make any promises.
Sure.
I'll try.
The other question I had was was funding, because now you're going to have to step aside as an elected official, and we're going to have to get volunteers and maybe a paid consultant.
Mhm.
What was the plan for funding that, and can it be funded out of gas tax, or is that eligible for?
I don't know legally. I think that's a question for council, but I know that we can provide educational materials, so we could put together a pamphlet and host a website, as long as it's educational, that it just spells out what the measure is, what the potential benefits might be. That's not highly political or tries to just state the case. We have spoken with a consultant in the past, and I guess some jurisdictions, apparently they hire a consultant that actually does all kinds of stuff, which I didn't think was even possible. But some of the jurisdictions that they were probably had as clients, they have hundreds of millions of dollars that probably could be coming in from these funds, so they probably want to see it succeed. But I kind of keep hearing conflicting stories there about how much we can do, and our county council has said we really can't do that. So I guess we're just trying to get to that point where we can even begin to have that discussion. As far as the grassroots campaign, I can't initiate that, but there might be some people in the community that might want to step forward. So it's admittedly we haven't gotten to that bridge yet. We're still just trying to get off the ground, so to speak. So I don't have a good answer there.
Another question that came up was how the funds would be administrated. What kind of board would administrate the funds?
Well, in our discussions with our meeting, we've been meeting at ACTC, and we thought maybe they could kind of have some oversight responsibility, and that we also thought that an oversight committee, a financial oversight committee, they wouldn't necessarily choose projects, because I think it was decided early on, each jurisdiction kind of wanted to have some control over the funds. They probably wanted to have a list of projects, but at the same time, if a road all of a sudden falls off into the creek, you probably want to divert the funds to pay for repairing and maintenance of that critical problem. So what the Financial Oversight Committee and other jurisdictions have done this is they just make sure that the money is being spent on what it's supposed to be spent for, which is road repair and maintenance. And so that's really what their role would be. If you have a different opinion or want to see a different oversight mechanism, then we can certainly take that under consideration.
With this, the financial oversight, my concern lies with these funds being, they're going to be commingled in with the ACTC existing funds. Are they going to be
Right.
separated?
Yeah, I think they would have to be in a separate account.
And managed separately?
That would be my expectations.
And I would agree with that. With ACTC, they currently have a supervisor-heavy voting block, sorry to say.
Yeah.
And if these are truly going to be funds that are going to go to the municipalities as well as the county, I think that they should be equally represented with, one vote, one person.
Right.
The county having 2 votes on that
Okay.
issue I don't think it should be that way personally on ACTC, and certainly not with this.
Madam Mayor, if there's a different mechanism, I'm totally open to it, and I think the whole committee is too. If you're uncomfortable with the ACTC, it only got suggested just because they're kind of already involved in this, and they kind of know roads. And to be honest with you, I don't think we fully ferreted all of that out, because we're just trying to get to a point where we can try to draft ballot language and, get fully solidified, get a consensus around this. But that would be something.
Is there anything that could prevent it from just being its own commission or its own block?
Sure, if you wanted an appointee from every jurisdiction, we could do that.
Okay, and then your administration of that would be self-funding? If there's any funding that needs to be done, would the initiative itself have 2% goes to administration for, filing costs, whatever? Is that something that you've looked at all, or
I haven't looked at that.
That's a little too far in the weeds for you at this point?
It may be too far down the road. I was hoping we wouldn't have to spend any money on administration at all. That is basically people would request their annual allocation or it'd be distributed, and maybe we could look at the Measure M as a model for how that occurs, and maybe that's because this is essentially.
That's kind of why I was looking at its own, because the Measure M funds situation that we're sitting in right now is a little bit dicey, so.
I understand, but that's probably for different reasons. There is a formula, and it can be, and I think that formula is working. But there are nuances to that as well. I agree, but I'm open to anything. I just want the best. The money to go for its purpose and for people to be satisfied with this. We are proposing a 10-year sunset, so if it's not working out, it does go away. However, I'm hoping that it would be renewed. I believe that being a self-help community is what most of the major jurisdictions in California, what they do already. And there is additional funding from SB1 if you are a self-help community. So right now, there's an extra $100,000 that would go. It's not competitive, so you'd be awarded that, and they may actually up it to $200,000 annually. And then there are competitive grants that you can apply for. Competitive, so you might have an intersection or something you want to do, maybe a section of road. Maybe we could also consider regional projects that might be larger, that benefit several members. So I think those might be the more difficult, but the I guess they call it the formulaic additional funding is $100,000, but it may go up to $200,000.
Do you have any idea of the leanings of the other supervisors? I mean, are we wasting our time? Is that something that they're interested in, or?
I think that I think that they are probably supportive. I know you have 2 votes, so
You probably can't tell you that because it's a violation of the Brown Act.
Well, just the leaning. His personal impression.
I know that they take their communities seriously. One of the supervisors, Ione, is within their district. There's one within one of them, the Pat Crew, his district is Jackson. I have the city of Sutter Creek, and Mr. Annetto is Plymouth, and Mr. Brown does not have an incorporated city, but I can't, again, I can't speak to them. I have been working pretty closely with Supervisor Annetto, and so I know that he supports it, and so do I. So at least, we're giving the voters the chance. So that's another way to look at it.
And I share Dominic's view on that. I think that it's their call. They need to be able to vote on this.
Right.
Any other, Stacy?
No, I spoke to Board of Supervisors a couple months ago when you guys first started, and he knows I'm not a fan of it, just because I understand road maintenance, and I think 50% of the problem is mismanagement. The case in point is Comanche Road. They did a beautiful job repaving all that, striped it, and I was out there doing a pipeline job. And literally a week after it was done, there was a grinder crew out there grinding all the stripes back out and repainting it because they painted it wrong or some shit. Right there was probably an $80,000 screw up. So I don't think the people should be paying for that.
That happened recently,
Yeah,
Stacy?
some months ago.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how much that costs.
I'm trying.
I do know this, that, every jurisdiction does have a budget shortfall in this area, and I don't see any other way. I don't think we can, squeeze our budgets to make it happen. We do need quite a bit of funding, and this is a method or approach that other jurisdictions are using too. So,
Unlike SB1 funds where we have no control over what happens to it, at least we have at least some semblance of local control of these funds.
correct. And if at the meetings when they resume, which I'm hoping they will, then maybe a representative from the council would also attend and provide address your concerns, see that your concerns are being addressed to the best that we can.
One more thing we talked about at our last meeting was we wanted to see if we could prohibit have the funds only be spent on city and county roads, because I'm on the ACTC and there's a lot of projects that are on 49, 104, 124, 88, and I mean Pine Grove is the next big project, and it's all on State Route 88.
Mm-hmm.
And Caltrans, they're not ever going to do anything, and they may not ever do anything anyway. But as long as we're spending our money on Caltrans roads, they're never going they're never going to do it. So I would definitely like to see this, restricted only to city and county roads. I mean, I know you have intersections and there's going to be somewhat of an overlap, but that would be the extent of it, that there would be some restriction to the type of roads that it could be used on.
Okay. Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
Because
We
the
can stipulate that
RTMF,
in the language.
the RTMF money and all of the other impact money can be spent on any road in the county, including a state highway,
Correct.
with their permission, of course, with the state's permission. But I'd like to see this one, hey, you can't spend it on, that would preclude Main Street. But, that means that you're gonna have to put the money somewhere else. So Main Street can get its funds from one of the other funds, but in this particular fund, I'd like to see some kind of restriction, or at least a discussion of a restriction.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I do have a request, if you would not mind sticking around for a little longer.
Sure.
We have an item that we're going to take out of order. Number 10 on the agenda is going to be moved up,
Okay.
and that would be the capturing sales tax from Mule Creek State Prison.
No, that's
No,
the,
sorry,
the
it's
split
9. You
between
wanted
the city
9?
Property tax.
Property tax, sorry.
Number 9.
You said
Number
10.
9.
So we're,
9, it's the
I
property
meant
tax. It's the property tax split between city and county. So if
Okay.
you would like to stick around for that conversation?
May I ask?
Hang on, yeah, we're gonna get to public comment.
Yeah. And we will, and now we'll take public comment. I just wanted to invite Supervisor to stick around.
I
with
want
us.
Mr. X to leave.
I didn't want him to run out the door.
I'd like to know, ask him, Mr. Axe, if this commission we're gonna have, even if we get each person from it, you only have one supervisor on it. When it comes to big money like 8AW, they got this whole board, and when it gets to $1 million, you guys gotta approve it. Is this gonna happen to this? The supervisor's gotta go before them. They'll okay it. I'd like to know if that's gonna be the case, because the board may as well not even be there.
well, the board was really a financial oversight board, so they just,
So you guys make the final decision.
well, the ballot measure really makes the final decision. The way the ballot measure will
Where the
be,
money's broke up, that's what I'm saying, after if it passes,
that's what's
then
in.
you guys get to make the final decision where the money goes.
No, it goes into it goes into the ballot measure. So, and we actually have in the white paper a scheme based on population for the
So
apportionment.
Larry, are you talking about the self-help tax, or are you talking about something else?
Self-help's tax.
Okay.
Because AAW, when it gets to big money, supervisors gotta okay it.
Well, I think in this case, that
That's what I'm saying,
decision,
and I don't want them to have control of anything.
I think it needs to be controlled by the community, by the community, not the Board of Supervisors necessarily. So, and right now, the decision-making process has not been created, as far as what I'm hearing from you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But it's my understanding that that money would come in, it would go into an account, and most of it would be divvied up based on the formula that we've agreed. Now, we will probably also include in the ballot measures something to address the annual allocation you would receive from the state, the $100,000 or potentially $200,000. So we would have to come up with a way to divide that as well, whether we use population or use a different scheme. I'm not sure. You can apply for competitive grants or with this, and that might be something that's a little harder to codify in a resolution, in a ballot measure. So it might be that, we'll have to discuss how we would deal with that particular portion. If people were gonna apply for a grant for, I don't know, they needed $1 million to do something, and whether they would actually even be awarded that, I don't know what the likelihood of that is. So that might be the only hitch there, but I think it's, I guess I'm less focused on that right now, because I I think that what we get from the self-help measure is the actual revenue that we can count on, and then maybe the additional $100,000 a year that we would receive as a result of SB1.
Right.
And if there's a scheme to already, or an apportionment formula, then it's pretty straightforward what that would be. Now, the actual number might go up and down, the total amount of tax collected, but the portion or proportionality of the allocation will always remain the same.
Because it's formula-based.
I'm asking who has the final say.
If I can interject, I think what Larry and maybe what Diane were getting at I think they would like to avoid the situation that we have with, like the AFPA, where the Measure M monies are, the formula is overseen by the AFPA, but the Board of Supervisors has to approve what the AFPA recommends. I think that's what they're getting at.
Okay.
Ultimately, we would like to see this governed by the people that are within the entities, including the Board of Supervisor,
Right.
to represent the unincorporated areas, the cities, and everybody gets their even vote. I mean, I believe that's what Larry and I were both referencing in our discussion.
Okay.
That's our
Well,
preferred.
that was the suggestion that ACTC, that they would oversee it, but, to be honest with you, we haven't gone any further than that. So I don't know, but I think your point is well taken.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other public comment?
Okay, I just want to make sure. So we're on the gas tax, right?
No,
issues-
this is not a gas
Wait,
tax.
I mean,
This is the self-help tax that we're working.
Yeah, for the roads and maintenance, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm on the right item. So I have a couple of questions. And it's not really for you, I guess more considerations. So the tribe gives money for road maintenance and repair. I'm not sure how that is all worked out and what that formula is. I just know that we give it to Amador County. We did the upfront improvements. We paid a 1.4 regional traffic mitigation fee. I know that's I won't talk about that because that's another item. And we also do periodic road repairs and maintenance. And in addition to that, 100% of the community fund is going towards roads, which I strongly oppose because the community fund was meant to be for the community. And again, when I say community, I was thinking more of the community that was impacted, not the entire county. And so right now, the way the community fund is being allocated in the budget is 23% is within the public works budget line item, which means that 100% of the community fund is going towards roads. In addition to some of those roads that have been funded by the community fund, Comanche Road, which by the way, the tribe funded through the community fund, parts of Jackson Valley, I don't have them all in front of me. Anyways, just to make a point, I guess my question or my suggestion to the city council would be to find out how the funds that the tribe is currently providing to the county, which a majority should be on behalf of Ione, are being allocated in this formula. Because I'm seeing taxes, I'm seeing funds that the casino, the tribe funds for these same types of things, which by the way, SB1 funds and the community funds are commingled because I found where there's funding from SB1 funds and from the community fund for the same roads. Comanche, Jackson Valley, Curran Road, which God knows how that one got on the list because I don't think that has any impact from the casino, but anyways. So my suggestion would be to find out how that calculation is put in here, because I think it needs to be. Money the tribe gives for impacts should stay within the district that are being impacted. Because then what happens is I get called saying, hey, you guys are still having these impacts and they're not being addressed, and they are. They're being addressed on a very high level, county level, and not on the city level where the impacts are truly existing. That's my 2 cents.
I would be really interested to get the agreement that you have with the county on how you spend that community fund. I mean, I don't know, I mean, it should be in whatever agreement that, I mean, if you're turning over, and I know you're turning over, you know, millions of dollars, but surely there's some kind of agreement on how it gets
Okay,
allocated, or is there not?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Not sure this is
Okay.
topic here,
Yeah.
but again, we can revisit that at another agenda item.
And I just want to add 2 cents. I love you, Supervisor Axe. I wish that we could clone you and have all of you up on the supervisors, because he's the most respectful and he really is caring. So I just want to point that out. Thank you.
See, aren't you glad you stayed?
Do we have any further public comment?
I just wanted to follow up on Rhonda's some of her comments. The intent, from my understanding, is you are paying impacts to the casino, and that anything that's for roads would be for roads in that area. There may be dispute as to what those roads are, but they probably would not be used outside of this area or within the jurisdiction of Ione. And they have not been included in the the funding sources in the white paper. The reason being is that because those are pretty special and restricted funds, and they are really to mitigate the impacts of casino traffic, if that's what those are specific for. They are in a separate account. So there may have been a project where SB1 funds and the casino mitigation funds were used simultaneously to pay for that project, but they weren't mixed in an account together. So let's make sure that wasn't that's not the case, and so that they're not part of the overall computation or the money trail, so to speak. Or I mean, that's the wrong way to say it. So this has really been the first year that we've had the funding from the casino, and it's really gone to some good use, and it remains to be seen how that's going to evolve. So I think that we can have a discussion in the future. I would be open to that, and I can't speak for my colleagues. Okay, they're trying to be good.
Any further public comment? Okay, Council?
Well, thank you for coming, Rhonda. I've met with her a couple of times, and she has a heart of gold, and her gold is being spent in the wrong spot. So we'll fix that somehow.
I would like to see, Supervisor Axe, some of those funds being allocated into this program if we're going to, I know in the ACTC at some point, Jackson Rancheria has a part of that. Clearly the casino is paying something. I think some of those funds should be addressed as part of this program. And they should be allocated appropriately to the accounts that they should be. If we're going to do it by the formula, fine, that's great. But I do think some of those, if the county is going to have those funds, they need to be included as part of this project as well. Or at least, given a valid reason why they shouldn't.
I'll have to let me think about that. The main reason why it's hasn't been part of the initial calculation is because they are new. They are for casino related impacts. So that's and presumably
I
that
thought
would
the
be.
community fund was a community fund that was rather general, so those funds could be used, and that the county has decided that that's what they're going to be used for.
Right. I won't disagree with you on that, and I think that in the future that there may be some you know, the use of that fund may evolve.
Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
I
I just wanted to be
Read
sure
the
that if
ISA
we're,
recently.
if we're
so-
gonna do a tax and we're gonna really look at it, that we are using all of the funds that are available appropriately. So
Okay,
that
I
might-
understand. I would assume it would go for mitigating casino-related impacts, traffic-related impacts, if it's from a specific traffic fund. And that would probably include the city of Ione too, which I think you might be more interested in.
One would think. Thank you.
Hi, Dana Calhoun. I just want to add one thing to what you guys were saying regarding the community fund versus traffic mitigation funds. Those are two separate accounts.
Are we talking, does
This
it
is
have
for-
directly to do
yes.
with the self-help?
Yes, for exactly what you were asking him regarding that. So just so, because I heard you guys talk about both of them, the community fund is $1 million per year, plus a tax of about 1.4. But then there's also regional traffic mitigation fee, which has also been paid, that's 1.4 million. So those are two totally separate things, just so you know, when
Right.
you're looking at the calculation. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Now we're gonna move on to
Number 9.
number 9.
Yes, Mayor, Council, at the last meeting, Councilor Atlin requested that the topic of property tax split with the county be brought to the agenda. And according to the county's information, property taxes in Amador County are divided as follows. 61.71% goes to the schools, 31.69% goes to the county, 4.6% goes to the cities, 1.33% go to special districts, and 0.67% goes to the fire districts. And basically, for each dollar of property tax that a property owner pays, 4.6 cents comes back to the city. Now, I know the city of Yuba City is beginning the process to renegotiate the property tax split with Sutter County, and I know that Elk Grove has also done a property tax split, but that was a while back. I'm still trying to gather information, and that information wasn't available at the time of the staff report was submitted. So I did just incorporate the chart where the property tax dollars go. And again, there's no action related to this. This is more of staff is looking for direction in terms of where the city wants to go.
Okay, I'll kick off first. So this has been talked about for several years, and I'm very happy that Supervisor Axe has stuck around to listen. But what we would like to do going forward is to renegotiate with the Board of Supervisors the property tax split. And what we're talking about is, so it doesn't hurt the Board of Supervisors or the county, we're talking about what I personally would like to see is like new building, because the county doesn't have the taxes from buildings that aren't built. But it would be from either new buildings or new projects when they get either annexed into the city. That's usually when this negotiation comes about. So when the city's, first of all, expanding its sphere of influence, there's a negotiation, and then when it gets incorporated into the city. And currently, what I'm asking is forget the school district, but is 32% to the county and 1% to the city of Ione a fair split? Is that enough money that the city of Ione can operate? Is that enough money that the county can operate? And I think what we need to do is we need to, do a municipal service review or something and find out what the county needs to operate as a county for the services it provides to the city, and then what the city needs. And like I say, I'm going to stress that this is not retroactive. It's going forward. It would be from, whatever, July 2020. But it would be, new projects or new development or new buildings. It would be great if it was unpulled building permits, but it's probably too hard to break that out of the tax negotiation. And as you can see this is the property tax split amongst all the counties, and you can see that what the cities get is not the 4%. That's what the cities get as a whole is the 4%, and it gets split from there. So, but they're You know, it's, the average in the state of California is 12 cents. This is from the state controller's office. So, you know, there's all the averages, is what everyone pays. This is from the county controller, and you can see there are different percentages paid to all the different cities, and so it is something that could be negotiated. It looks like it was negotiated here. But that's all we're asking, is to have this discussion on going forward, brand new projects or new buildings, you know, what would be a fair property tax split, because I don't think that the current one is fair. And that's all I wanted to bring that up and see if the council wanted to support moving forward with this. I've also had discussions. I've talked to Mr. Axe, I think, a couple of years about this. I've talked to quite a few people, a few other council members, and they all, I think, would desire to, you know, have a look at the property tax split in Amador County.
I would agree with Dominic. I think we pay a large percentage of our property tax out to the county, and the requisite services that the city of Ione is getting are not there. We have our own fire, we have our own police, we are managing ourselves, basically. And the statewide average is much lower than what we are looking at here. I wasn't able to find the percentages for our like counties, but I will continue to look for those and get that same type of a pie graph for those counties as well. See what their percentage is. Roughly, they run about 24%, and you know we're sitting here at almost 32%, which is really high. So I would definitely like to open up a discussion on that front as well. Any further discussion from?
I'm always open to discussing how we can get more money.
I agree with Dominic.
And do I have to have public comment on this? Yes. Okay, I'm going to open up public comment.
Good evening, Council. Lori Lord. I'm up behind this 100%, and I've been doing a little bit of homework on my end, and some of it's just observing. You know, Ione has added 270 homes. That's a bunch of property tax to the county. Ione's going to add another 270 homes before it's all over. That's a bunch of tax money going to the county. And the county needs to take some things into account. You know, we don't have a half-mile long Main Street like Sutter Creek or Jackson does. We don't have much to grow retail to try to self-fund Ione. But we're bringing you a lot of money, and somewhere that should just stay here, just based on the math. We just can't have it all go, because all of those houses cost the city a bunch of money. They have to provide certain services for that, and those are tall dollar items. So I think that the number of houses and what we're producing, what Ione is producing for the county, should be taken into account. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, but one more thing. So looking at this property tax, one of the things that had come up when we were negotiating the ISA was whether or not, before we got divorced from Jackson Valley Fire and went with CAL FIRE, that the tribe was going to fund 100% of Jackson Valley. That didn't end up happening. I got married to CAL FIRE, and it's another day. However, we are funding $68,000 some odd dollars to Jackson Valley Fire, which is a savings for the county. On top of that, there's the taxes. One of the things I had always posed to the county was you can't do both. So you can't have this tax calculations and the tribe funding. And then in addition to that, we have now a fully staffed CAL FIRE station. So the county does have significant savings because of the tribe's mitigations. Another thing to factor in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Mayor, I was briefly briefed by your city manager, John Hankin, that this was on the agenda, so this is all kind of new to me. You know, the renegotiating the tax sharing arrangement. I'm sure that the county is more than happy to talk to you about it. I don't know enough about it to really say. I know that every jurisdiction, you know, needs as much funding as they can get. And I understand that, so I would be more than happy to sit down with you, but I think I'm the wrong person to do that. The other thing I might want to mention is, you know, the county has tried to move forward with an initiative in economic development. We're trying to put together an economic development plan for the entire county, and we have reached out to, I think, members within your council and certainly your city manager. So I'm hoping that, you know, if we start looking at that part of the equation, the funding side, and, you know, can we do better things or smarter things to help our funding situation? That's all. And I think that, you know, we need to work together on that. And there's, you know, incorporated in that, and I might be going on a little too long, but it's not just businesses, but housing and workforce training and things like that. And, you know, those are some of the things that we may want to consider, you know, and if we want to control that process or just let it happen. So I tend to believe in trying to at least, you know, be abreast of what's unfolding in front of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for staying.
Okay, so now we're going to go back up to item number 4, adoption of resolution number 2020-02, approving the fiscal year 2018-19 Amador County Regional Traffic Mitigation Fee Program and the annual report.
Yes, Mayor, Council. Every year, ACTC submits an annual report to each government jurisdiction in the county related to regional traffic mitigation fees, the program, its history, the project obligations, approved expenditures, account for new revenues, and any new program modifications. As required by the MOU, each city and the county submits RTMF revenues to ACTC for deposit and into an account solely designated for the RTMF program. In the numbers, you can see that the 18-19, the RTMF program received $478,377. You can see how the contributions were broke out. Basically, the city of Ione, in terms of their contributions, accounted for 56% of all the total amount of revenue. As part of the requirement of the MOU, council needs to adopt the resolution, basically accepting the annual program annual report for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Any council questions? Public comment?
I just have a few questions about the RTMF. So this resolution is just accepting the report from last year? Is that all it is? Does it have anything to do with moving forward next year at all within the program?
It's just accepting what
Accepting the report.
what you see here in the report.
Okay. Can you tell me who is on the oversight committee for RTMF? Is anyone here on that committee?
That's down. So there's RTMF, and then there's so I'm on the ACTC, but who decides to spend the money on the projects is I think it's called IRT. It's another committee. It's Dan Epperson's on that committee. So they have like a finance committee for the ACTC, and they're the ones that you know, decide on the projects, and that's Dan Epperson.
Okay. Do they have open meetings?
Yeah, they have open meetings. You know, if you contact the ACTC, that's John Gedney up there, they'll send you all the packages and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't have meetings like we have it every single month.
They're listed as needed on our
Yeah.
committee roster.
They may have 2 a
Yeah.
year.
Okay. I thought I saw in here it was just once a year, so I mean,
Yeah, it's not very frequent.
Okay, okay.
Usually what they do is they set their projects on a yearly basis, and then they move forward with it.
Okay.
But in this report here, you can see, there's a list here.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I was just
okay.
answering a question.
No, it's okay, yeah. I
Verbal
have
diarrhea, I
questions. No, it's totally fine, no problem.
Apologize.
No problem. So, yeah, I just had a few questions about it. So all the different jurisdictions put money into this pot and they use it for different roads in the area, okay. And then what John just said, let's see. Okay, so on the cover page of it, under agenda item 4, it states that the total revenue from all jurisdictions was $478,377 for fiscal year 18-19. And that includes the county, Ione, Jackson, Cedar Creek, Plymouth, and Amador City. And it looks like Ione put the most money into the program, which was $262,354. And then the next highest contributor was the county at $87,213. So Ione contributed 3 times of what the next highest person contributed, okay? Which is fine if, the roads here are being fixed. The total amount from 2002 to 2019 that Ione contributed was $1.6 million. So within that time frame from 2002 to 2019, the program spent $375,000 on the Ione bypass planning phases. So we don't really have a bypass yet. And then the other thing in Ione, I think, was $1.2 million on Sutter Ione Road, but the part that was fixed is in Sutter Creek.
Sutter Ione Road isn't in city limits.
So that's kind of my point, that the money wasn't brought back to Ione, right? So has any of the funding that Ione has paid into this money pot come back to Ione?
The $300,000 for the study for our bypass.
Okay, so just for the study. Okay. Let's see. I just have a couple more questions. Sorry. Okay, so on the resolution.
You get 4 minutes, so.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know I talk a lot too.
I took up at least a minute.
You did,
I'm
that's why I'm
sorry.
cutting her a little slack.
Okay, so I'll talk faster. Okay, according to the resolution, the second whereas states the purpose of RTMF fees is to mitigate the impact of new developments on the regional transportation system of Amador County. So how much in development fees did the city of Ione collect during 18-19, and what percentage goes into the program? Do all the development fees go into the program, or just a certain percentage?
I'm not sure I understand the
Yeah.
question. We
Try
submitted
that one more time.
$262,000. That is the RTMF, what we collected. That's what goes into the program.
Okay, so all,
So, yeah, like I said, I'm not sure I'm understanding your question.
I'm trying to understand this, so forgive me, it's my fault. The development fees that are paid in the city of Ione, 100% of that is put into this program? 100%?
Not all, the fees that are designated for the regional transportation mitigation fees, that's a separate category, okay? All of those are collected, it's a pass-through, it goes to ACTC. But that's not all the fees. There are the local transportation fees, there are parks fees, there are sewer fees.
Right.
So again, I guess I'm not sure what exactly it is you're looking for now.
I would say all of these fees are getting passed to ACTC, to RTMF, yeah.
And they're
Okay,
designated fees
All
for
of
this
these, yeah.
purpose.
All of
Okay.
these fees, yeah.
Okay, great, that's good. Okay, yeah, I had a couple of those questions. I know I'm almost at my 4 minutes, I'm sorry. So I just want to know, so in the diagram, it shows how much Ione paid into it, but there's also fees from Buena Vista Tribe of $1.4 million in traffic mitigation fees. Do those also get paid into that? Are those considered any type of development fees or no?
They're not part of
They're
this
not?
program as far as
Okay.
as far as this report's concerned, they are not included in this.
Okay, I'm just trying
From what
to
I can get.
figure out the pie, that's all. Okay.
Different pie.
Different pie, okay. I was just wondering, okay. And, let's see. Okay, I think that's it. I just wanted to clarify a few of those things. Thank you.
Thank you. I would encourage you to reach out to ACTC and they'd be able to answer all of your questions.
Okay, yeah, John is
Yeah.
always very, very helpful to me, so, okay, thank you.
Okay, record for most time talking. Actually, to answer her question, under the ISA, the tribe did pay a regional traffic mitigation fee. It did go in that pot. So why the 1.429 is not in this calculation needs to be asked, because this was not specific to impacts. It was, and the reason why is because we already fixed the roads. We did the signalization, we did the paving, we did everything up front, $20 million up front. Okay, this was in addition to what work we did. So this money would have went into that pot. I also had questions because I don't.
To ACTC and not the county?
Okay, so if you look at the language of the ISA, it says that in addition to us fixing the roads, we also have to pay the regional traffic mitigation fees. So that money would have had to go into that pot.
And you said that was how much, 1.4?
1.429,200. So someone, and it's not in the budget, it's not in Amador County's budget. I don't know where this money actually ended up going.
When would it have gone there?
So we paid this on March 16th of 2018. So it definitely would be in this report. So someone needs to ask what happened to that money. It's not meant specifically for a mitigation. It was, read the ISA. It was for the regional traffic mitigation fee. It was at 5,000 cars per day. And that's how we came to that number, which, by the way, there's not 5,000 cars, because I wouldn't be complaining about all the money I pay if there were. Thank you.
If that was March of 18, it would not be in this report, because this report would go from July 1st.
Yeah, it would be 18-19.
No, it would go from
Fiscal
July
year.
1st of 18. This
Right.
report.
Or in the last fiscal.
It would be the fiscal year
It's
prior.
not. Okay, so all the money the tribe paid, none of it went into, we began paying money 17-18 fiscal year, 18-19 fiscal year, and 19-20 fiscal year.
The previous
Everything only went into 19-20. However, we paid these in 18-19. So that's my very question. Where's the money? It's not in any fiscal year.
I'll take a 20-second stab. So this is the RTMF of the ACTC that
Yes.
is 5 cities and the county.
Yes.
And it doesn't include
Yes.
your casino. Now, I think what I would guess is that your funds went into a different fund, but it doesn't go into this one because you're not part of this agreement.
No, it does.
Well, that's
If
what
you
we'll.
read the language, it's specifically for that. And the reason why I know that, and I didn't mean to just interrupt you, sorry, is because we fought that. Because we said, well, wait a minute, we're already fixing all the roads. So that's a tax in addition to fixing the roads,
Right.
so.
There's a couple of points you've made tonight that we don't know what your agreement is with the county and where the funds go, but for sure we will look into it.
Okay, that provision specifically is for the regional traffic mitigation fee. It's in the ISA.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
That last bypass study they did, that we paid like $200,000 for, it didn't count to nothing. ATC just kicked it out because they didn't notify any local people to put any input in it that this affected. And a couple of years before that, you guys didn't collect $500,000 from ATC. Nobody wants to bring that up anymore either. And that's the city's fault right here. I brought that up umpteen times. Nobody wants to go after JTS. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comment, I'm going to close public comment. And I will,
Madam Mayor, may I just make a general comment?
yes, you may.
We would like everybody to know that we are talking about very specific items today, and we need to make sure we're tailoring all of our comments, whether it's from council or the public, specifically to the item. We've gotten a little bit into the weeds on some of these, and we want to make sure we're not here until midnight tonight. If you have specific questions, John Hankin is available to answer them at the city offices. But again, public comment is for comments to be made, not for us to respond, and we need to make sure they're narrowly tailored to our items tonight.
Thank you, Sophie.
I will look for
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-02, approving the fiscal year 2018-19 AC RTMF Regional Program Annual Report.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. Resolution is carried. Moving on, number 5, adoption of resolution 2020-04, accepting the improvements associated with the 2019 wastewater treatment plant biosolids removal project, authorizing the release of the bonds associated with the project.
Yes, Madam Mayor and council members, this is kind of a cleanup item, honestly. The work on this project was completed last June, and the acceptance of this actually slipped through the cracks. We're trying to clean that up. The contractor's been paid. There wasn't any issues to that. The way this came up was the contractor reminded both the Public Works Superintendent and myself that they asked if the bond had been released, and in looking into it, we simply forgot to bring the item forward. So this is specifically just to officially say we've accepted it, and it allows us to release the performance bond that was associated with the project. It's that straightforward.
Thank you. Council discussion?
Okay, watch me, Sophie. This kind of stuff drives me nuts because this happens all the time. There needs to be someone that watches this more and more. This poor contractor had probably $1 million sitting out there for almost a year for no reason. This is one of the reasons contractors do not like working with the city. I don't know how to fix it other than someone needs to be on staff that can pay attention to this kind of thing, and you know, there's a lot of contractors out there that want to help us, but they do not like working for the city. And here's one example.
Any further council discussion? All public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And I will look for a motion.
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number 2020-04, accepting the improvements associated with the biosolids removal project and authorizing the release of the bonds associated with this project.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Item 6, award of consulting contract to update the wastewater project, water balance and development of a wastewater project CIP list.
John, you want me to handle this item?
Yeah.
I mean, Madam Mayor and council members, at the September wastewater committee meeting, a proposal was presented to them to look into updating the water report that was done by Dexter Wilson Engineering back in 2016. And the reason for that is there's been a number of changes. We were requested to look into what it would take to complete a revised water balance. Initially, the scope of work was misinterpreted in that we thought we had to redo the whole study, and then after talking to the wastewater committee, what we found out is it really needed to be focused on just the things that are mentioned in the staff report, primarily being taking into account that ponds 1 through 5 were lined, the increased depths that were found in ponds 1 through 4 when that was done, changes to the water or Amador Water Agency flows to the wastewater treatment plant, the cessation of the ARSA flows that are proposed to occur in 2022, and probably more importantly, the 2016 report that was done by Dexter Wilson didn't really look into the possibility of using Preston Reservoir as a reservoir site. We think that could potentially be significant cost savings if that could be used as opposed to having to construct another holding pond on the city field. So this would look specifically into that and what would it take to do that. The other thing that this report would do would be working with PERC Water to identify the specific improvements associated with redoing the wastewater treatment plant's headworks and get a little bit more specific cost estimating and identifying when that would be needed in a more of a capital improvement program. So that generally are the things that are included within the scope of work. And I believe John had talked to ARSA on the 27th, talking about what their plans were if they were going to be stopping the releases to the city of Ione in July of 2022. They did reply by saying that they may need an extension, but they wouldn't know until the end of this year. So the bottom line is what this report is trying to do is look at viable alternatives, find out what has to happen. Because honestly, if additional storage capacity is needed, there needs to be a number of years of heads up because of the potential cost of that. So generally, that's the scope of work included within this.
Council questions?
So ARSA can build a sewer plant and get it all operational, get all their permits done in 1 year. Is that what they can do? That's pretty amazing. I mean, I don't understand why, they can't be a little bit more, like give the city of Ione a little bit more of a heads up, whether they want to be in or they don't want to be in. So that's kind of strange. I'm not sure if this is, we had discussed also looking for, potentially looking for well water over at the sump area as part of a study. And then actually came to my attention last week whereby there's a raw water pipeline very close to Preston Reservoir as well. I don't know how far away it is exactly, but perhaps looking at extending that as well. I think what we need to do is to have as many options open as we can have open. Whether we, I think pumping water up to Preston from the city might be expensive. Also, if that was going to occur, perhaps you could use the ARSA pipeline to pump the water up that way. Instead of building a whole new pipeline. I'm sure that was what some of you were going to consider, but those were my comments. It would be nice if, we don't know what's happening with Woodard Bottom because we don't know if the state's going to move forward with its permit or if it's going to get one. We don't know if ARSA is going to want to come in for a year or two or whatever because they're not going to know for another year, which is a year away from the end of the contract. So there's always going to be unknowns in this. I mean, so that's that's always been that way. But whatever we can do to keep as many options open as we can, I think we should look at. In here, you're talking about the pump from the headworks to the tertiary plant. I mean, that's been discussed since at least 2002. I mean, it was at one time I heard that everything was in place, including the pipe under the bridge. They just didn't have a physical pump. So, I mean, I support this study. I think it's important, but when you're doing it, please give us as many options as you can.
Yeah, and what we don't want to do is be redundant with we don't want to rehash the Woodard Bottom because that's already been studied.
Sure.
It's already in the report. This was mainly focusing on, for instance, using the ARSA line, putting in a pump station and trying to get it up to Preston Reservoir, which would save us the cost
Right.
of having to build a new pond. So,
do you know what the elevation is to get from Preston Reservoir to the wastewater plant? I mean,
I've looked at it and I want to say it's 200 to 300 feet.
that much, huh?
Yeah. I think it's been a little while since I looked at it, but I believe it's in that neighborhood.
I think this thing has too much moving parts in it. You're talking about completely different things. One is a water balance, which is basically mathematical formulas. The other one is the headworks on the sewer plant. And personally, I think that should go out to bid because I don't understand why you would want someone that's ran the thing for 10 years, that ran it in the ground, you want them to help design a new headworks for it. I think that part of it should go out to bid to someone else.
Just for clarification, Councilmember, there's no design for headworks in here. It's a refined cost. They were supposed to be identifying and giving us a cost estimate, a refined cost estimate from what they've done before. So there's no design from Perk Water in that. That would have to go.
Well, then what are they doing? Telling you what?
What we need.
Yeah,
That's my point.
That's
my point. Get someone else to tell you what you need. I think if you're spending that much money, you should get at least 2 or 3 people's opinion in there.
Their fees are not even included in this, and I don't know. I know the city managers had talks with them.
The reason I bring this up is I've spoke with 2 or 3 different water processing companies, and I've mentioned how the plant works and what's there, and they have totally different outlooks of what should happen there to what PERC thinks, and I think we should have other ideas brought in. That's just my 2 cents on it. And the water thing, the well is the simplest thing. I mean, that could be really, so you can go in the file cabinet in there and pull it out and see how many gallons a minute the thing takes. And then you just got a small pipeline job. Another pipeline Dominic was talking about is the raw water line that feeds Old Preston. It's still there. So I just don't want the city to spend $100,000 on a study when we can spend $80,000 on a pipe and hook it up and make Dominic have water, so.
Well, it's 32,000, it's not 100.
But it did start out at 70,000.
I know,
right?
exactly, which is why I went back.
Come on, John, go down to 10. Do we not auction?
Tom, do you have anything? No. I just want to reiterate Dominic's point that in our original discussion, there was, and our original scope of work, there was the artesian well noted in there. Was that included in the old report, and that's why you're not including it here?
It was mentioned in the old report. Honestly, we'll go back and double check whether it was thoroughly covered, and if it was not, we'll cover that.
Yeah, because I would like to see what kind of numbers that's going to give us as well. Any further council comment? Public comment?
That headworks, it should have been done a long time ago, but that's what's filling your ponds up. And like this man sitting right there said, it's probably gonna cost you $100,000, $200,000 to clean pond 1 out. Cause it's probably over 10% already. You've been almost, what, a year that's run? 6 months, so it was 120 10-wheeler loads out of pond 6 when they dumped into it. Just think about that. And the thing, if you really wanna look at one, see Mr. White, he's the head of the rancheria up there. They just put a brand new headworks on. You can look at it and see what it is. I'm certain he'll let you go up there and look at it. And it's the state-of-the-art one. And we're gonna have to do something. I don't know about our building, if it's gonna handle, we keep building all these houses. We ain't got no place to put it. And as far as that holding pond, 16 million, if you read the report from the water board, when they get a half-inch of rain, they're opening Preston Pond's valve and dumping in the Mule Creek. Now, you're gonna do a study on a thing that they don't even have enough reservoir? Give me a break. That's crazy. They don't have enough reservoir. They're probably the only ones dumping into it. Sutter Creek probably ain't been dumping hardly any water into it. And you guys wanna do a study on Preston Pond when you could, they get a half-inch of rain, you're opening the gate and dumping in the Mule Creek. Read the thing from the water board. It's crazy. And you could take pond 7 and the pond behind it, probably dig it out and get your 16 million gallon holding pond that he's talking about. You gotta do something, and this keeps spending money on studies, it's just blowing things. We had $7 million before 2008 in our budget for the sewer, and we got nothing now from all these studies, absolutely nothing.
Any further public comment? I'll go ahead and close the public comment. Any further council? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
see. Yeah, I move we award the consulting contract to update WWTP water balance and development of SIP list.
Second.
We have a first, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
We have one opposed. The motion carries. Moving on. 7, strategic planning.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council, this was brought on at the request of the mayor. We want to do a update of the strategic plan and kind of give an overview as to where we are so far. What we are looking for is potential dates sometime in April.
I'd like to kind of correspond it with the budget so that we know where we're at with our projects and what our budget looks like for next year so that we can have a real good idea of where and what we can do as far as our goals that we set last strategic planning session.
And I'm assuming that this will probably be a Saturday event?
Yes, I would think so.
So if you guys can give me your calendars in terms of what's available, I'd appreciate it, and we'll get something set up.
Yeah, I'd like to see it in plenty of time for the budget, so in case we identify something that might impact the budget, we give Lori plenty of heads up.
You need to let me know if you need somebody.
Do I need
office
public?
there.
You were there at the last one, were you not?
Yeah, it's a Saturday. If you need me, if you don't, you don't, but yes, you do need to take public comment on this.
Okay. Yes, I think we probably should have you there. Sorry. Public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And moving on to item number 8, sign permit fees.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council. At our last meeting, we had a representative from the city come and talk about the high cost of the sign permits. Council wanted to re-examine that. So you have the building fees associated with all the buildings. And just, in terms of what was passed in 2018, a sign permit is $165 plus plan review fee, which could be about 100% of the permit fee as well. I know State Farm put in 3 signs here recently, and the total permit cost was $262.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to revisit this is because we had that gentleman from Hook that said he had spent $800 getting a sign put up, and so it looks like the most you could spend is $165 for the permit and up to $165 for the plan check. So how did that gentleman get charged $800 for his sign?
He didn't, because technically there's no sign permit for Hook. There is none in the file. Now, one of the things that I'm wondering is because, again, when State Farm, and I pulled this up, the valuation of the signs that they were putting up was $800 in terms of the size and how they're hanging it. And I was wondering if you made some confused about the cost of the signs.
I see. So he added in the cost of the sign.
I can't swear it, but like I said, when I look at the numbers in terms of what State Farm did, the valuation of the signs that they put up was $800.
I see.
So our goal here was if in fact the costs were going to be $800 to put a sign up, that was rather exorbitant. So it's $165.
Times 2, right? Because the plan check.
The plan check could be up to 100%. Again, the 165, like I said, with State Farm, it was a relatively easy once they submitted all the information. So again, 165, and then it was the remainder was plan check and some other fees. So it didn't necessarily equate to the 300 and something. Like I said, it was $262 total.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a cost determined on how much time was put in? Is that?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, real simple stuff, like I said, in terms of the permit. Like I said, we try to do material, basically staff time if at all possible.
I mean, as far as the plan check, or plan review, it says.
Yeah, the plan review, like I said.
It's just to make sure the sign's securely fastened, or?
And if there's electrical, you have to deal with the electrical aspects of it too.
Okay. Well, $165 seems reasonable to me, but.
It's unfortunately the gentleman isn't here.
Yeah, he probably said the total cost. That's more likely. But I mean, you can run up a bill by having, if you call for after-hour inspections, we're looking at all this here, then it costs you more and so on and so forth. But it looks like, I mean, you could pay $165 and $27.50 and you're done. Sounds like State Farm, did that. So, I mean, the fees went up because they hadn't gone up in 17 years. We spent, 2 years agreeing on a formula, and what we said, and I voted this in, so, but we said, look, if there's a problem, then bring it to our attention and we'll try and fix the problem. So when someone comes and says, it cost me $800, for my sign permit, then we brought it and we tried to fix the problem. It looks like perhaps, he was confused on what his actual costs were, so I'm okay with, with the sign fee.
Any further discussion? Public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And we are finished with that, so we are missing, we need to do 10. Down on capturing sales tax from Mill Creek State Prison, Councilmember Dominic Atlin.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up was just for some guidance on, how would we approach the prison to see if, it was mostly over the coffee selling, was who do we go to on, to find out whether they are selling it and whether we are eligible for the sales tax. That's what, I didn't really mean it to be an agenda item, but that was kind of.
And again, what I'm looking for is clarification, so let me talk to some of the people at the CDCR administrative offices and see if I can't get an answer. Because one of the things that, I'm dealing with right now is the fire department wants to purchase protective gear for fighting wildland fires. The products are made at Mill Creek State Prison, but we have to go to Oregon in terms of the supplier to buy it. And I'm trying to bypass that system because it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, like I said, it's made here, we should be able to buy it here without having to go all the way to Oregon.
Let's cut out the middleman.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, the middleman may have a contract with the state, but.
Well, but again, I mean, it's worth exploring.
Well, and if that middleman is buying it, then he's paying sales tax on it, and why aren't we getting that?
Okay.
Yeah, when I went to Long Beach, there was a mayor down there, I can't remember what county, and he had like 4 prisons, and he makes killing off the prisons because everything that is sold out of that prison, he gets sales tax on it.
You have another
Coffee might pass as food, I don't know. I know the meat kind of exempt, but.
Do you know the mayor's name? I'd like to talk to him.
Yeah, I'll get it to
You
you.
can send it to me, that's not a problem.
Thanks.
Okay, and that is that. I will entertain an adjournment. Or no, we gotta do all kinds of other stuff.
No, you can't
Don
adjourn
reports,
this
we
yet.
have the city manager reports.
Give me a heart attack.
No, I did not. Yes, public comment. Sorry. I'm gonna get that down one of these days.
I can't believe you can't, I work for the state, they've got a regular CDC book you can get. And I can't believe Hankin can't get that from the, oh God, I can't remember what they call it in Sacramento. You work for the county.
I work for Sacramento County.
But no, they
I
got a
work for the
regular book
state.
of everything CDC makes. Not only here, Soledad, our shirts come from them.
Yeah, you can Google
it. And I can't remember, and you could go through it and buy whatever you want.
It's called Cal
If you're a
something.
public agency, you can't be a private person and buy from a prison. But I
And it's
can't remember.
prison purchases or something, you can Google prison purchases.
It's called like Cal Purchasing or
When
something.
you find it, send it to me.
Well, I'd have to go down to the yard, because they probably got the book down there. I'd have to go see it.
Might be
But they got a
private
book
prison
that
industries.
Shows everything they sell. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Okay, moving on. Managers report?
Okay, received a quote from All Sports America for the tennis/basketball courts. That was in the amount of $258,650. Again, this company is, or has a state bid contract. The price doesn't necessarily mean it's the best price, but I do have a template by which, in terms of, I can talk to other companies and see what type of prices that we can get from them.
Sorry, what was the name of the company?
All Sports America.
Thanks.
Also, the position for the front office, that will close tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I do know that we received quite a few applications. We also need to schedule a wastewater committee meeting as John starts moving forward with the work. We're going to want to have some discussions. So I know Dan isn't here tonight, so I'll be sending you out an email trying to get something scheduled for either later this month or the first part of March. I am finishing up the consultant evaluation forms, and I'll be reviewing those with Sophie tomorrow, and we'll be sending those out to you shortly. I'll be sending them out electronically. And then finally, the last thing is I forwarded you a notice of violation from the Water Quality Board related to an event that occurred at the golf course November 4th. So we'll be following up with that, and we'll be preparing our response.
Comment on?
No.
No. Okay, I see, when I call for it, we don't need it, and then. City Council Committee reports?
None for me.
The AFP, I actually missed the meeting because I had an emergency at the last minute, but AFPA is just beginning the process of looking over and rewriting the JPA agreement between all the various members. So and I'm on that committee, so I'll let you know. Hope to have it done by April.
I just had Parks and Rec, and we talked about the basketball courts and whatnot. Along with that, Lori Lord came down to the train depot and was looking at maybe somehow helping with the fencing or something like that. And that I didn't bring this up to Public Works, so I'll bring it up to you guys. That train depot's been a project for I don't know how many years now, 5, 6, maybe longer. And it just keeps getting issue after issue. And what's kind of interesting is one of the most probably historic, expensive, sensitive buildings in the whole county is Knight's Foundry. And there's 3 guys and an engineer that have been up there for probably a month working on this thing. And the only time the city gets involved is they come by and thank them for doing a good job. There's no inspections of anything, and they're building something that has those tens of thousands of pounds of weight on these huge beams and redoing foundations, and it's quite impressive. But what's really interesting about it is the 3 guys doing that job and that engineer are the same ones doing the depot. And the depot is just a barn, and it's so simple, such a simple job that could be done in months. And it just gets stonewalled because of how the city treats projects. It's phenomenal to go to a city like Sutter Creek and to be able to get volunteers, build a building, rebuild this huge historic thing, and it's very easy. Down here, they just get bashed big time. The engineers fight with the engineers, and if you're a civil engineer, you should not have another engineer over the top of that engineer. And I think it's a shame, and I think something needs to be done about it, so.
Can we should we put that as a future agenda item?
I would like to.
Rather than Parks and Rec's discussion?
Yeah, because it's.
That goes into the next subject.
That's
so
the next one. So,
put that on.
I will put that down for a future agenda item for you.
Because there's people like the Red Barn that donate a lot of money. I think the Rancheria donated some money, and they're very frustrated that nothing's going on down there.
Okay, so I want to be concise with what your agenda item is. Are we looking at the manner in which projects are handled? Are we looking at the depot park itself? What would you like the agenda item to?
It can be all of the above, but the depot would be a good example, and maybe get some answers why it's being delayed and why this has to be done and that has to be done when it obviously doesn't have to be done that way.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Anybody else have any future agenda items?
I do. Really like to push on the parking lot. The last 2 days I came to Ione, I had to circle twice to find parking. Let's like to get an update on the parking lot that we were looking to purchase. Also like to find out when's the creek committee going to get formed. I had some items to do with the creek as well, so like particularly property lines, stuff like that. And then also, I hope I can call you Rhonda. Rhonda's been here and expressed some concerns that I don't think that, we're not part of the ISA, but it seems that Rhonda's desire was to spend more of her funds in the city of Ione, so I guess that makes it, I don't want to step on anyone's toes with the supervisors, you know how they are. But it seems that Rhonda's got some concerns with the ISA, so perhaps we can get some contracts from the county and find out exactly what it does say, because I don't know what it says. I'm on the ACTC. I've never heard of the $1.4 million until tonight, and I'm on the board, so exactly where the money's supposed to be going. And I do agree with that community fund. That does seem to be more pertinent to us. I'm not sure again.
Okay, Dominic, how do you want me to put that as an agenda item?
Perhaps I'll talk to you or John about it offline.
Okay.
I don't want to, make anybody mad or get involved in something that's not what we're supposed to get involved with. But for sure, how about this real easy? How does the city of Ione go about applying for some of the funds from the community fund from the county? That's the nicest way I could put it. And that can lead to, that's probably the nicest way to say it, right?
And concise, I like it.
Right.
Dominic did remind me of something. I attended, and John too, the FEMA mitigation thing at the county, and the big topic was our creek. And they said the city of Ione is the only city in the county that actually has legal levies in it, and they want to know who maintained them and how who owned them and blah blah blah. I believe the next meeting is the 19th or the 20th, I think, John?
Actually, both dates. They're, if I remember correctly, they're 2 and a 2-day session.
So maybe after that we can bring back some information for you.
But I'm not sure the term legal, there were levies, they're not recognized by FEMA at all.
So that doesn't make them that.
So
makes them the opposite of legal, doesn't it?
FEMA doesn't recognize them, so technically
They're written down.
they're not there. They're drawn there, but they're not. And again,
Hey, and we're getting off topic again.
just slap me. You can do that. Don't be afraid.
But yes,
When
we
she
need
gets
the
really
creek
tall in
maybe
her
going
chair, I
in.
know we're.
You can take your fist and just.
Okay, so you're going to be
We'll argue that
attending-
next time.
You're going to attend the meeting, so you can report back on that meeting at the next council.
Correct.
Okay.
But I will say the consultant is good. I mean, it's very knowledgeable.
Okay, I'll quiet. And I got one more thing.
We're very.
Diane didn't actually finish her
Okay,
city
sorry.
council committee reports. Did you have any reports?
No, I do not. I would have done that. I do not have any. I would have gone to the agenda items. One more agenda item?
Yeah,
for you?
one more thing. It was, how do we get, like, going forward, this is January, let's not wait until August and then fight, brushes that need to be trimmed for fire protection. How do we get CDF, and Mule Creek Prison to do public works projects for the city of Ione? Like clean out the creek or take down the brush or whatever it is we need to do. Who do we need to talk to? How do we get it funded, so on and so forth. And there's CDF and there's Mule Creek Prison. And perhaps there's Pine Grove Conservation Camp or whoever we have around here that we can get to do some public works projects.
Okay.
Thanks.
Lip Trap is his name, by the way,
That's it.
city contractor.
All right.
Closed session.
Move we adjourn.
No closed session tonight. And I will look for.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
For a second, all those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
Thank you, council, for keeping us.